Good morning. I am Rolf Lulloff, retired doctor and one of the founding members of the Brain Center of Green Bay, a nonprofit with a mission of trying to improve brain health for everybody. In doing that, we deal with patients with who we call clients, but individuals who happen to have brain disorders. I have a personal experience. My wonderful wife, Anne, had Parkinson's disease for 45 years until she passed away last spring. She taught me so much in how to deal with some of the things that arise with Parkinson's disease. We all think about Parkinson's disease by having seen people with it that have tremors, shakiness, that move slowly, that walk slumped over somewhat. And these people, however, have many other things that can be challenging for them. For example, if they've had Parkinson's for a while, they may have trouble swallowing, they may have trouble chewing, and how their mouth really works. But in addition, they have trouble speaking. And most people with Parkinson's disease gradually end up having a very quiet voice. It's hard to understand them. Now, if you have a musculoskeletal problem, one of the things that works well for that is to do exercises. We often do not think about doing exercises for our chewing and our swallowing, and indeed for our talking. There are excellent programs that are done with people with Parkinson's disease, with speech therapists, with physical therapists, and with occupational therapists to attack those sort of problems. Anne and I worked on that with her. And it started with us sitting in chairs facing each other, and I would say to her, let's move this, let's do this type of exercise. And I thought, why aren't we doing that with her mouth? So let's get her to speak louder. How do you speak louder? Well, you shout. You make an effort to speak louder. So I would be sitting there with her and I would say, okay, Annie, we're going to speak loud. So what are we going to say? Well, I started off, I'd say, I love you. And she would say, I love you. And I'd say, louder. I would love you to say that to me. I want to hear you well. Louder. Say it louder. Yeah, shout it. Louder. So, but it gets old just saying, I love you. So what did we do? I said, let's say the alphabet. So I'd say, I'll say A and you say B, and make it as loud as you can. So I would say A, and she'd say B. I'd say louder next time. C, D, E, F, G, and we would go through the alphabet. So we would do that most days, and we would try to shout it out. Then one of the problems with Parkinson's, and as with getting older, is that sometimes we need to do stimulation activities for our brain. Actually, counting out loud is stimulating your brain. All these things are stimulating your brain. We need to stimulate our brain by challenging our brain. Now, if you know how to say the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, did I have to think about each of those letters? No. Our brain has that imprinted. It's actually automatic. But let's say the alphabet backwards. Oh, wait a second. How fast can I say the alphabet backwards? I have to think every individual letter. And so Ann and I started to do that. So we would do the alphabet from front to back, and she'd say the last letter, which was Z. And I said, okay, now let's do it backwards. You start with Z. And so she'd say Z, and I'd say X, and she'd say Y. I'd say W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, O, N, M, wait, I left out P. But you can learn to do that. And we got to the point that we trained our brains to go backwards with the alphabet. You can do the same with numbers. Now, it's easy to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's pretty easy to say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's challenge our brain to think. Let's go up in threes. So, and I will say 1, and you say 1 plus 3 equals 4. So you say 4, and I'll say 7, and you say 10. And we'll go up to 100 like that. And we would do that. And that was not only stimulating her voice and her speaking, but it was stimulating her brain to think and to figure. This is all maximizing our brain health. Our brain will respond to good training. If you want to be a good walker, you practice walking. If you want to be a good tennis player or riding a bicycle, you practice doing it. Okay? We practice all sorts of things for our brain. So, you can play these games and you could say, well, that doesn't do anything. That's baloney. It does do things. There's another part, and that's mechanically exercising your mouth and your swallowing so that you chew better. I jokingly said to Ann, you always used to be able to touch your tongue on your nose, and I could never do that. I said, and she looked at me and said, I can touch my nose still. I said, show me. And she went like this. I said, you didn't touch your nose. She said, I did too. I said, oh, okay. And this is one of the mechanisms you do when you deal with somebody, is if they say, I can do it, you can remind them once that they're not doing it. But don't keep reminding them. Agree with them and work around it. So I'd say, okay, Ann, we are going to exercise our tongue. Our tongue is a muscle, and we can train it. Just like we train our legs to walk and to run and to jump and to ride a bicycle, all these things is training your brain. We can train our brain with exercise of the tongue. If you think about general animals that don't have great brains, they have a part of their brain that their tongue works fine. You think about a snake, and their tongue is out, sensing things around them. Are they thinking about that? No, it's automatic, but it is so interesting. So let's go back to humans now. So Ann is sitting there, and I'm sitting here, and I say, okay, Ann, we're going to exercise our tongue. Stick your tongue way out. Put it back in your mouth. Okay, we're going to stick our tongue out fast and as far as we can, 5 times. Okay, now we're going to exercise our tongue from side to side. Okay, now we're going to exercise our tongue by sweeping our upper lip. Now we're going to exercise our tongue by sweeping our lower lip. Now we're going to shout out loud and count from 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just like that. So there are all these exercises you can do. An overriding principle in doing all these exercises, some people will say, I don't have time to do all that. And my answer to that is, don't you want to be as healthy in all ways as you can? And don't you have the rest of your life to do these things? And if you think as we get older, we tend to become more sedentary. Don't just sit there and watch television. You don't have to exercise constantly because rest is important. You don't want to get overtired, but you want to train your body. And actually, you're not training your body, you're training your brain. And your brain will train the body in how to do things. So we have great opportunities to do this. And so that is part of Anne's experience. And she trained me in how to do this. And we have to be adaptable. We have to figure out what works. But you also have to make it fun. And when I said to her, when we finished ABC all the way to Z, and I said, let's do it backwards, she looked at me and I said, that's going to be fun, isn't it? And she laughed. Okay, laughter is the best medicine. So you can make these things very, very positive.